Once upon a time, there were twin sisters, Mary and Ashley. They had loving parents and a caring grandmother who sometimes looked after them. But one day, their mom and dad came home with a rosy-cheeked baby. "Girls, come meet your sister. Like a rainbow, she will make the world brighter and kinder." The twins and their grandma glared at the baby with eyes full of hatred. They disliked her at first sight. The poor baby was smiling. She had no idea how hard her life was going to be. This is not a fairy tale, but the beginning of my story. After all, I was that baby. Hi, I'm Rose. And you? Tell me your name in the comments down below. By the time I turned 7, I knew I wanted to be a doctor and help people. My parents supported me. "Rose, we promise we will save up enough money for you to go to a medical college." Mom and Dad adored me, but my relationship with my sisters went from bad to worse over time. I genuinely tried to get along with Mary and Ashley, but they wouldn't let me in and always found new ways to make me cry. One day, they broke my favorite doll, but I didn't come running to our parents. I hoped that would finally make my sisters see that we were not enemies, but a family. Soon, Ashley came up to me and said she was ashamed of the way she'd been acting. "Mary made me do all those things to you. She's so mean. Let's be friends." She handed me a gift box. I excitedly opened it and screamed in horror. The box was full of insects. When I was a kid, there was nothing I feared more. The next moment, Mary was suddenly there, and the twins started laughing at me. "I can't believe Rose fell for that." I felt so wronged that for the first time in my life, I decided to get back at them. I stole my sister's phones and tried to bury them in our garden. But Mom and Dad caught me red-handed. "Rose, revenge is for the weak. You should be kind and patient, and one day you will be rewarded for it. You'll see." I had always looked up to my parents, so that day I listened to them and didn't try to get back at Mary and Ashley again. Even when they hurt me, I didn't get mad or complain to anyone. Sometimes our grandmother visited us. She always brought gifts for the twins, but she never even had a kind word for me. "Ashley, Mary, look what I got you." "Rose, I don't have anything for you. Don't bother coming over." Whatever, I wasn't going to. I was afraid of Grandma and usually hid in my room until she left. Grandma probably loves the twins more because they're just as nasty as her. What did you say? Oh, years went by, and I turned 14. That year played a huge role in my life, and here's why. My sisters turned 17. They were so beautiful, and all the guys at school were pining for them. The only boy who paid attention to me was Greg. I wished he didn't, though. Not a day went by without Greg saying something nasty to me. "Hey, Rose, why did you stink like a rotten fish even though you're named after a flower?" I wanted to slap the living daylights out of Greg, but I never did because I remembered my parents' words about revenge. One day, Mary and Ashley heard Greg bullying me as usual, but instead of standing up for their little sister, they giggled. "Baby Rose, are you blind? That boy likes you." "Are you out of your mind? Greg is always picking on me. That's what boys do when they have a crush on you, silly." That sounded like complete nonsense to me. Why would anyone bully someone they liked? That evening, Mom and Dad said they were going on vacation for a couple of weeks, and Grandma would come to look after us. My heart sank. Living with that evil witch for 2 weeks wasn't going to be easy. Soon, Mom and Dad left, and Grandma moved in with us. She was sweet with the twins, but treated me like I was Cinderella. She made me do all the work around the house and even demanded I wash her car. I gritted my teeth and endured such treatment in silence. I knew what my parents would have said if they were there. "You should be kind and patient, and one day you will be rewarded for it. You'll see. When will the time for that reward come?" One evening, it started raining, but I wanted to be as far away from Grandma as possible, so I ignored the rain and went for a walk. Greg noticed me from his house window. Have you been thrown out on the street like an unwanted kitten?" That became the last straw for me. I couldn't stand it any longer and shouted at him. "If you like me, then do something nice and ask me out instead of acting like a jerk." That seemed to confuse Greg. He stepped away from the window, and I felt much better. Sometimes getting things off your chest feels really freaking good. The next day, Greg called me and asked if I wanted to go on a horror quest with him. "You were right yesterday. I do like you. Since my secret's out, let's have some fun and get to know each other." Greg was hardly the guy of my dreams, but I agreed to go on a quest with him. It was better than listening to Grandma grumble at me all evening. When Mary and Ashley found out where I was going, they giggled slyly. "So we were right, huh? Greg has a crush on baby Rose." Sometimes they acted like they were 5. Without saying anything, I walked out the door. Greg was already waiting for me on the porch. He handed me a beautiful rose. "Be careful, don't touch the thorns." "Wow, since when are you so caring?" I've been trying to look tough, but I'm not actually a bad guy. It was just hard to pluck up the courage to confess. "I'm sorry for all my dumb jokes. If you mean it, then I forgive you. We shyly smiled at each other and went on the quest. Greg led me to a creepy, abandoned building. This place is giving me goosebumps. It's a horror quest. The props are supposed to look scary. Don't worry, we're in no danger. Are you sure? Well, alright. We were supposed to solve some riddles and find a way out of the building. What an unusual way to spend time. Still, I got into it and was enjoying myself, until some guy in a creepy mask suddenly appeared in the hallway under a flickering light bulb. The worst thing was that he suddenly started chasing after us. What's going on? Is this part of the quest? No, that wasn't in the script. That psycho is real. What? His words made my hair stand on end. That wacko suddenly grabbed Greg. Run, Rose! Save yourself! I didn't want to leave him, but decided to run away and get help. I frantically ran into some gloomy room, and then something sticky and nasty fell on me. Ugh! Insects! At first, I screamed, but then I realized those were just gummy worms. Then someone turned on the light, and I saw Ashley's laughing face. She was filming me on her phone. Awesome! This video will get 1 million views! Greg and the psycho who had caught him walked into the room next. I had already guessed that Mary was hiding behind that creepy mask, and was not surprised when I saw her. All 3 of them were dying laughing, but I didn't find it funny. You're all terrible. Did you really think I liked you? I was only pretending. Your sisters came up with a really cool prank. They kept laughing and didn't even notice that I'd run outside. I came back shaking with resentment and anger. As soon as Grandma saw me, she pounced on me. Where have you been? Dinner won't cook itself. Before I could say anything, Mary and Ashley walked into the house. I never complained about their antics to anyone, but that day, they had crossed a line. Grandma, they pulled a cruel prank on me. Oh really? Well done, granddaughters. I'm sure it was all your own fault, Rose. Seriously? I've been putting up with you for years, but I'm done. I'm going to call Mom and Dad right now and tell them you all treat me terribly. You ungrateful wretch. I told your parents adopting you was a mistake. Don't call me Grandma. You're not my granddaughter. That's how I found out I was adopted. Can you imagine? I looked at my sisters through tears. Did you know? Mom and Dad forbid us to tell you the truth. That's why you've hated me all these years. Our parents always praised you more than us. They're real daughters. Who would like that? Deep inside, I still hoped it was one of their cruel jokes, so I called Mom and asked if it was true that I was adopted. Did the girls tell you? It's true, Rose. Who are my real parents? I want to meet them. I'm sorry, but they're gone. I was so shocked I dropped my phone. My world was falling apart. Meanwhile, Mary, Ashley, and Grandma just looked at me hauntingly and smiled. Oh, look, she's about to cry. At that moment, some switch in me flipped. I'd had enough of being kind and patient. It was time to take justice into my own hands. I would show them that even fragile roses had thorns. Beside myself with anger, I trashed the twins' rooms and got into my grandmother's car to get away. But I was only 14 and didn't know how to drive. So I crashed the car into the nearest fire hydrant. Then I started getting messages from my classmates. They were all making fun of me and talking about the stupid video my sisters had filmed in the abandoned building. I realized there was one more person I had to get back at. Greg. I climbed into his room and threw the guy's computer out the window. As soon as I did that, rage left me, and I realized what I'd done. Terrified, Greg called his father, who was a policeman. Dad, she is crazy. You're in trouble, young lady. The court sent me to a boarding school for troubled teenage girls as punishment. My adoptive parents took the news hard. Rose, that's not the worst part of it. We had to buy Greg a new computer and your grandmother a new car and pay a huge fine. I'm afraid we spent all the money we saved up for your medical college. I don't care. I don't want to be a doctor and help people anymore. The good old kind Rose cared about that, but she's gone now. While I was packing my suitcase, the twins kept taunting me. That's where you belong, you psycho. You're finally leaving. Yes, I am, but one day I'll be back. You should fear that day. She's changed so much since that evening. My adopted parents gave me a ride to the boarding school and handed me a photo of a couple. Those were my real mom and dad. We wanted to wait until you got a little older before telling you about your biological parents, but it seems that time has come. They were our friends and very good people. They worked as rescuers and died while saving people from an avalanche. We wanted you to grow up as kind as them. Being kind got my parents killed. From now on, I will live by my own rules. With those words, I got out of the car and left without looking back. A bunch of angry girls immediately surrounded me. They wanted to see what the new girl was made of. I laughed in their faces. Even a few days ago, I would have been afraid of you, but now you should be afraid of me. Time flew by. Soon, I became the scariest mean girl at the boarding school. I broke all the rules and snapped at all the teachers. My academic performance was going downhill, and my adopted parents kept trying to get me back on the right track. Please try to control your anger. Don't let it ruin your future. You should lecture your real daughters. I'm not one of them. Don't come here anymore. All the teachers at the boarding school were unhappy with me. They kept saying I should be kicked out and sent to juvie, blah, blah, blah. There was only one young teacher called Miss Crowley, who was kind to me despite everything. One day, when I tried to run away from the boarding school, she stopped me. I'm not going to lecture you or tell on you, but tell me, why did you try to run away? No one here gets me. I do, Rose. I used to be just like you, angry at the whole world. I even ran away from home when I was a teenager and almost got into trouble, but some good people saved me. Miss Crowley said that after that day, she changed, grew up, and became a teacher, and now she often helped other troubled kids find their way. To this day, I am grateful to my saviors for the kindness they showed me. Here they are. She handed me a photo of a smiling couple. How was it possible? Those were my real parents. I told Miss Crowley about it. She sighed again. I know what happened to them. It's tragic. Even though they are no longer with us, they live on in the memory of all the people they helped. Let's take a walk. She brought me to the city cemetery and showed me my parents' graves. Overwhelmed, I fell to my knees and burst into sobs. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry I let you down. I let anger control my life. Miss Crowley came closer and patted my head. You just got a little lost, Rose. It's okay. You can still take control of your life. I nodded and wiped away my tears. That conversation was therapeutic for me. I realized that I still wanted to be a doctor, so I started studying harder and apologized to my parents. They'd always taken care of me, and I should have treated them better. After a while, I was allowed to go back to regular school and move back home for good behavior. Mary and Ashley had come of age, but they were still living with their parents because adult life turned out to be harder than they expected. The twins weren't thrilled I came back, but I didn't pay them any mind anymore. I studied hard and worked part-time, and one day, I got into a medical college, moved to another city, and started living on my own. What I liked most was that I didn't have to see my envious sisters anymore. Soon, I met Patrick. He was a medical student like me. Patrick was hoping to become a neurosurgeon. It was love at first sight. We became the most beautiful couple in college. Several years went by. Then one day, my adoptive parents asked us to spend the Christmas holidays with them. Patrick and I were already in our senior year by then. I wasn't sure I should go because I was afraid meeting the twins and their evil grandmother would bring back unpleasant memories. But Patrick talked me into it. You should face your past and leave it behind. Soon, we arrived in my hometown. While we were driving to my childhood home, I saw Greg outside the window. He'd achieved nothing and was working as a pizza delivery guy. I could have gloated, but instead, I calmly smiled. Greg got what he deserved. My parents were over the moon when they saw me. Sweetie, we're so proud of you. My grandmother and the twins kept glaring at me during the whole Christmas dinner. Then Grandma suddenly choked on a piece of turkey. I reacted immediately and used the Heimlich maneuver I had learned in college to give her first aid. Rose, I've always despised you, but you saved my life. How can I thank you? I am a doctor. I do not help people for any rewards. It's my calling. This is why I fell in love with you, Rose. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. He suddenly got down on one knee and proposed to me. Tears of joy streamed down my face. Of course I said yes. I didn't care that my sisters were grinding their teeth with envy. I was surrounded by the people I loved, and I was happy. When I was young, I got a bit lost on the way. But thanks to Miss Crowley's kindness and my parents' patience, I found my way back to the right path. Now I want to make this world a bit better, and I know my biological parents would have been proud of me. Patrick and I are expecting a girl. Shh, it's a secret, okay? Who knows, maybe one day our daughter will also tell her story on the Private Diary channel. Subscribe so you won't miss it.